Coming up on today's episode, has Nico Hulkenberg pulled at the thread of a possible Formula 1 return in the future? The German driver steps in for 2 races with Racing Point, or formerly Force India, his former team in F1. Could we be seeing the German driver back on the Formula 1 grid in the future? Sebastian Vettel talks publicly about his lack of pace at the British Grand Prix and how Scuderia Ferrari didn't support the German driver as he almost finished outside the points at Silverstone, and how Daniel Ricciardo was so close to getting his first podium with Renault Sport. Since the Honey Badger moved to Renault, his best finish has been a 4th place, which he matched at Silverstone back on Sunday. All this and more, and the bigger stories coming into the 70th anniversary year Grand Prix at Silverstone on this episode of F1 24/7 News. Just before we start, I want to let you know a big thing, and that is that 58% of you guys watching this episode are not subscribed to the F1 Debate Show. Now, if this is the first time you are seeing us on your screen, then welcome. We do hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you are new, please like and subscribe and check out all of our content coming your way for the F1 Debate Show in 2020. We have big race weekends, including the previews and reviews live streams after the race, Agree or Disagree, and of course F1 24/7 News and our debate shows on the Saturday. Loads of content for you guys. We hope that you enjoy. We hope that you can stick around and watch us in the future. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be the first one to know when we upload with all of our content coming your way. So that's out the way with, and without further ado, let's jump in to this episode. So the first mention that we want to say is Sergio Perez was unfortunately the first victim to contract COVID-19, and he missed the British Grand Prix and is set to miss the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. The 2 races at Silverstone. He will step out of his Racing Point car and self-quarantine for 14 days in this situation. Now, again, this is a side of Formula 1 that we don't want to see. It was heartbreaking news for Sergio and indeed the Formula 1 paddock to find out this news. And even though a replacement has been found in the way of Nico Hulkenberg, and of course everyone is excited for what Nico could have done at the British Grand Prix and what he can do at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, it is bad news that even though Sergio Perez is safe and well and recovering in an apartment outside of Silverstone and in self-quarantine and making a good speedy recovery, we do pray for Sergio Perez. We do hope that no driver and basically no one in the Formula 1 paddock and indeed the community now contracts COVID-19, this horrible pandemic that we are still involved with and Formula 1 will still have on its back throughout the entirety of the season. And from the F1 Debate Show and from Formula 1 community, we do pray that Sergio Perez has a speedy recovery through this horrible coronavirus that he has contracted, and we hope that we can see him back in that pink car very, very soon. Nico Hulkenberg has been in Formula 1 for 10 years, and he left Renault at the end of the 2019 season, having only achieved 1 pole position back in 2010, his debut season with Williams. A good solid career with different teams including Sauber and Force India back then. His closest victory almost came at the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix when he's better than L.Hamilton but crashed out at the CNRS in a rainy Interlagos. But Nico Hulkenberg has always wanted to return to Formula 1 and achieve something in his career. Of course, as I said, a decade has passed and nothing has come out of the German's career. Even though a good, successful Formula 1 career has been behind him, he still wants to achieve race wins, which have eluded him in the past. As he stepped away in 2019, some people were thinking it's good that Renault were moving forward. He was replaced by French driver Esteban Ocon, and the German driver Nico Hulkenberg moved on to better things, a possible motorsport career outside of Formula 1 in the future, but nothing has come around that. But of course now Nico Hulkenberg has stepped back into the Formula 1 scene. He replaces Sergio Perez for 2 races, as of course Sergio has unfortunately contracted coronavirus, and Nico Hulkenberg came in to replace him for the British and the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. Of course, a very hectic and disappointing race for Nico Hulkenberg last weekend at the British Grand Prix. So after a quick turnaround from Germany to Silverstone in the space of less than 12 hours, so I'm competing in FP1, 2, 3 and qualifying, but unfortunately missing the race on the Sunday. He became the first retiree of the race. And after all of that big hectic work that Nico has been doing, the lack of sleep, the simulator work and all of this, he did not make the race where he was tipped for his next return into F1. Of course, he has the next weekend, or the race that we're heading into, which is the 7-year anniversary Grand Prix to do. This might be positive as well, of course, that he has more time to work on, including getting his neck muscles correct, fitness, and of course more sleep, and just all over preparation for the weekend. So we are expecting a good weekend for Nico Hulkenberg, especially in the Racing Point car, which we know is competitive and we know it does very well. Just ask Lance Stroll, his teammate for this weekend. But Nico Hulkenberg now has been in talks about taking the Renault seat until Fernando Alonso shut that door, and his name is still always talked about in Formula 1. Now, you might have forgotten that in the last few weeks, the name of Sebastian Vettel going to Renault, and of course, as I've just said there, Fernando Alonso being confirmed into Renault, have kind of shut the door for the German aspirations to come back into Formula 1 for the future. But after he has now come into the limelight for 2 races, of course, as I've just said there, for Racing Point, Nico's name is now back on the table. We've seen things like Sebastian Vettel meeting up with Otmar Zafnau and doing the fist bump just before the race at Silverstone, which might show that Sebastian might be going to Aston Martin, and the silly season might be over and all the seats might be closed, but Nico does still have a chance, and his return to Racing Point is now showing that Nico might still be in the transfer hunt and a driver that teams might be looking for in the future of F1. Now, we don't know when that's going to be. It might be next year or it might be in the future. Of course, Nico Hulkenberg, a driver who's been in Formula 1 for a decade, in his 30s, is not someone who might be looked at and thought, he is a youthful driver and he's someone that we might want to sign. But it might be someone that obviously knows a lot more about Formula 1, is more of a veteran, and of course is the reason why Racing Point did look at him. So the reasons why Racing Point did go for Nico Hulkenberg mainly was the fact that he has driven for what was the former team, Force India, of course. Very similar to, of course, what they were. So the only thing that's really changed is the name. Everything else has basically changed the same. He's driven for that team before. He's driven in Formula 1 and he does know Silverstone like the back of his hand and the team very, very well. They also had a lot of help from Renault as well, which obviously was very good to see. So the physiotherapist of Nico Hulkenberg and a few people from Renault who did work with him back in 2019 actually went over to help with Racing Point in that weekend. So there was a bit of kind of working together, which was great to see in the F1 paddock. Nico Hulkenberg as well is a skilled driver, and above everything, he was committed to actually drive on that weekend. And as I've just said, the amazing turnaround of less than 12 hours. So Nico Hulkenberg at 4 p.m. was sat on a sofa in Germany, and at 2 a.m. he was in Silverstone having a feet sit. As I just said there, the amazing turnaround. At 4 p.m, he was sitting on his sofa in Germany, and then at 2 a.m, he was having a seat fit in Silverstone ahead of FP1, which actually started around 9:30 that day. A lack of sleep, a fast turnaround for the German, but he also knew that we're not just helping this weekend, I might be helping for the future, and I think he knows that. So of course, Racing Point are in a situation where they are looking into different drivers for the future. We have talked about Sebastian Vettel, we have talked about Sergio Perez, we have talked about Lance Stroll. Of course, at the 2 of those drivers, Sergio and Lance, at the team right now. They'll be changing to Aston Martin in the future. Now, you might have seen on Sunday, Lawrence Stroll, of course, dad of Lance Stroll and the chairman of Racing Point, did the COVID kind of elbow bump with Sebastian Vettel on the way to the paddock, which might show that Sebastian Vettel might be in talks with that seat. But now another name of Nico is now floating around. The man who has, to be honest, saved Racing Point in this situation. Other drivers, of course, might have been in the mix. There was a lot of drivers coming on Twitter and doing funny things like that. But of course, in all seriousness, they might have had drivers contacting Racing Point and saying, we are definitely interested in this drive. But Nico really saved the team. He helped them. They know he's a good driver. And he has come to the rescue, of course, replacing Sergio and taking that car alongside Lance, hoping to get a good haul of points for Force India in their home race. There is no fans, but of course it is a home race for Racing Point. 2 of the races, of course, heading into the home race and the 70 year. Obviously 70 years of Formula 1, kind of where it all started as well. And the team they are just over the road. So it's so important that Racing Point get the best result. And Nico was hopefully the man to deliver it. A good 13th place in qualifying showed that the German driver still had good pace in that car. There was a lot of things said on commentary about things like his neck, for example. I know it's a bit of a strange thing, you might think, to get ready, but in Formula 1, having your neck muscles to kind of put up with the lateral and side Gs that you might be getting in the corners and things like that are definitely a big thing. You can definitely see that on the telemetry, or anyways, the skilled guys could, and obviously relaying it back to us. He will have more time to work on that for the next round. So actually might have been a little bit of a positive that Nico did not race on Sunday. Now he's got a bit more time to work on this for Friday, of course, when FP1, FP2 starts for the 70th anniversary Grand Prix weekend. But he is back. His name is now flown around in Racing Point / Aston Martin for the future. So we've talked about Sebastian Vettel, but now Nico Hulkenberg might be in the mix. Will he replace Lance Stroll? Will he replace Sergio Perez? Will Sebastian not be signed? And might we be seeing Nico Hulkenberg being at Racing Point, Aston Martin, formerly Racing Point, and formerly Force India? So in this way, it will be a return to his former team, and that's obviously why he's kind of come to the team as well to help out. If you remember back in 2017, Jenson Button going to McLaren to replace Fernando Alonso alongside Stoffel Van Dorn when Fernando had the IndyCar race to complete. Of course, Jenson stepped in that race for that car for one race. His former team, McLaren. Of course, Jenson's name wasn't really thrown around there to make a return to McLaren. Maybe that was the reason why Jenson, because he had actually also he'd achieved what he wanted to in Formula 1. Of course, I just said that at the start. Nico Hulkenberg, unfortunately, hasn't achieved, I don't want to say anything because that sounds harsh. He has had a good 10-year career in Formula 1, but he only has one pole position to his name, one fastest lap, which came from the Brazilian Grand Prix. Close a few times, he came very, very close. Remember Germany 2019, just before he crashed out, but nothing has come for the German driver. So he might want to step back into the car to achieve something big. And again, as I've just alluded to, what better car to step into than the Racing Point? And if they can keep up this form, Aston Martin for next year, that Racing Point is fast. And we have talked so much about the Mercedes, all that stuff, not going to go into it, but Nico has a competitive car, and all these jokes about Nico getting on the podium and things like that, to be honest, it's not stupid, it's not ridiculous, it's not like looking at when he was at Renault or Sauber or Force India. That car is fast, and he definitely has a good chance, and I believe that if he can impress, he already has impressed, just from his loyalness, his dependability for the team, to go from Germany to the UK in less than 12 hours to do this. Okay, yes, he's not getting any stickers for doing that, that commitment, but he has really stepped up to be the saviour for Racing Point. And I think to show all that, plus a good performance in the car from FP1, FP2, FP3, and qualifying 13th position, good haul for the race, of course. What happened wasn't his problem, but if he has a good result this weekend, I think Nico could be and will definitely be a name to be thrown around in the silly season heading into 2021 and the future of Formula 1. This has now gone from a three-way battle at Racing Point / Aston Martin to a four-way battle, and I definitely believe Nico Hulkenberg is in the mix to go to Aston Martin for 2021. Let us know in the comment section below, what do you think about Nico Hulkenberg? Of course, it might not be Aston Martin, but I do believe that is the best opportunity for him to go to in the future. Of course, his former team, one way or the other, all the way down the line. A good driver who's had over 10 years in Formula 1. He has had, of course, some big accolades, including, as I say, that pole position. So it would be a good asset to have him. And, of course, Sebastian Vettel, who is the next person we're going to be talking about. Maybe Nico is the better choice for that. Let me know in the comment section below about the German driver. Do you think he should return to Formula 1? Do you think it'll be with Aston Martin? What do you think? And yes, Nico Hulkenberg, the man who said, see you later, to Formula 1. The British Grand Prix was incredible, with 3 teams on the podium. Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton took the victory, the 87th victory of his Formula 1 career. Absolutely incredible for the British driver, especially after the last lap calamities that he had. Sparks were flying all the way from Luffield to the International Pit Straight finish line, and if there was crowd there, it would have looked amazing to see. Sparks flew almost 2 miles around the Silverstone circuit. That would have been incredible to see. And again, it shows the skill of Lewis to keep it on track. Max Verstappen, of course, taking Valtteri Bottas on the final lap, was doing a big push and said on his team radio, can I win this race? And you had a very good chance. It's a shame Lewis Hamilton was so far up the road, because you definitely had a chance. And of course, Charles Leclerc coming from 4th to 3rd. Again, good performance by him. So you've got Lewis, you've got Max, and you've got Charles. And we all know what happened to Valtteri. And Alexander Albon again had a penalty, but a good drive from him, and in my opinion, driver of the day. But there's one big driver you might be thinking, where's he? And that was Sebastian Vettel. 10th place, he finished. But we're not looking at the 10th place. He finished in the points. Yes, that's okay, and of course, he's added to his championship. But just think about this. Before Carlos Sainz got his problem, like Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas did, Sebastian was running in 11th place. 11th. It's weird. Sebastian Vettel should not be out of the point, and that's what we were almost seeing at the British Grand Prix. Again, 10th place wasn't a good result for the German. He fell back one position from where he qualified in 10th position and basically stayed there the entire race, under threat from the McLarens, from the Renaults of Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon, and even under threat from possibly Giovinazzi and even George Russell, who all did a very good race. The midfield was on fire, but Sebastian was a member of the midfield for that race. And he's come out and said that Ferrari just weren't giving him any support or any support or, go for it in that race. It was all about Charles Leclerc. So Sebastian Vettel has come out and said that the Ferrari car was hard to drive. The stability, the power unit was not good on that car. And of course, the tyre problems did get to him when both of the drivers were told to keep the tyres under better condition that they can. To be honest, a steel for the curbs kind of moment, and of course that's why the race is compared to Silverstone 2013. Sebastian Vettel, under that, in the steady drive that he was done in that non-competitive car, said that Scuderia Ferrari just really weren't giving him the time of day in that race, and all of the aspirations were on Charles Leclerc, who of course was running in 4th place, chasing down Max Verstappen, and then finished on the podium, of course, after Valtteri Bottas got his problem. Now, again, you might be thinking, well, of course they did. Charles Leclerc finished in 3rd place. Even still, he was in 4th place, a much better position than Sebastian, who at that point was running outside of the points. But it is their driver. They shouldn't be really going on like that. Scuderia Ferrari have said that they did not give much support to Sebastian Vettel, that it was all Charles Leclerc's fault. Charles Leclerc in that race, of course, they were promoting a better finish for him, and a lot of the aspirations were on that driver. Sebastian Vettel did not have a good British Grand Prix. It was really bad, and again, his reputation and what he might be thinking in Formula 1 has definitely gone down, especially as the German driver is definitely considering possibly retirement, moving teams, and a lot of different things might be going through his head. Of course, a demotivated German driver at the Scuderia, as his contract is up at the end of the season. So what is Sebastian Vettel going to do at the team, and what is the hopes for the next few rounds? Well, again, as I just said there, we're heading into Silverstone, of course, the second round at the Grand Prix. Nothing much will change. That's why it's going to be an incredibly short preview tomorrow, because, of course, we are exactly the same track. We, of course, will be talking about the tyres and the curbs, but in terms of the actual car and what Scuderia Ferrari can bring for Sebastian, will not change that much. And will Sebastian see more support from the Scuderia, or will it all be Charles Leclerc? Again, Charles is higher than Sebastian in the World Championship, and really he is the number 1 driver and the only one who can catch the Mercedes and Max. So again, is Charles the man to take Ferrari into 2020? And is Sebastian really the man who isn't really in that fight? A bit like how Kimi Räikkönen was possibly in his final season in Formula 1. Let us know what you think about Sebastian Vettel, but it was a bleak run for Sebastian, almost finishing outside the points, and it was bad. He finished in penultimate place in the first race in Austria. Nico Latifi almost got him in terms of the points. It's not been a good run for Sebastian Vettel, and almost finishing outside the points is not good for the German and Ferrari going forward in the future. Also, Ferrari as well, saying that, of course, Matteo Binotto said that they will have no wins expected until 2021, and it's also come out that Scuderia Ferrari have lost over 300 million euros in revenue from their lack of performance in the races. And again, this is just not helping them, not Sebastian, and of course not the team going forward. Last thing to mention on Sebastian Vettel, again, as we just mentioned that in the Nico thing, of course, he was seen doing the COVID elbow bump with Lawrence Stroll before the race in the paddock. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that Sebastian is now decided to go to Aston Martin, of course, as his contract is up at the end of the season with Scuderia Ferrari? We'll have to see what that's like. Let me know in the comment section below. Sebastian Vettel, is he going to go to Aston Martin? But what is going to happen in the immediate future heading into this round at Silverstone? Should Ferrari get more behind him? And why is he so off the pace between himself and Charles? Because I know Sebastian had problems in the car, but remember, Charles Leclerc, a very similar car, he got 3rd and Sebastian got 10th. Daniel, lick the stamp and send it, or as David Croft said, lick the envelope and send it. Ricciardo's best finish was 4th place, which he got in 2019. He has now equalled his best performance at 4th place in the 2020 British Grand Prix. He was running in 5th place, of course, until Valtteri Bottas got his puncher. I should stop saying that. He finished in 4th, Charles in 3rd, and of course Max in 2nd. It wasn't looking like Daniel was going to catch Charles, but the team and even Daniel Ricciardo were pretty adamant that a podium was definitely in sight, not because of what happened at the end of the race. They weren't really helping for any kind of shake-up, but in that race, that Renault was looking very strong. Now, again, a very good qualifying from Daniel Ricciardo and even his teammate Esteban Ocon, and a good run of pace again for both drivers. Esteban finished, I think, of 7th place, and of course, Danny finished in 4th. A good performance by him. Now, that Renault car wasn't going well in the dirt, yeah, especially through Magnussen and Beckett, and the power unit again wasn't as strong as some of the other competitors, e.g. McLaren and Lando Norris, the man who he was battling through that race quite a long time. And Daniel Ricciardo said that he is convinced that that car will get a podium at the British Grand Prix. That's a very big thing to say. Again, like I've just said with Sebastian, not much is going to change for the next round. But if Daniel Ricciardo believes that, and Renault believes that, I do hope that it turns out for him. Of course, the Honey Badger leaving Renault at the end of 2020 to go to McLaren in 2021. Of course, replacing Carlos Sainz, who will go to Scuderia Ferrari. I do hope it works out for Daniel Ricciardo. He believes that he can get a podium, and he believes that Renault car is definitely stronger. Renault have also said that they should hope to be there consistently and take McLaren and even bring the fight to the top. Teams, we definitely hope that was the case. If Danny Rick got the podium in Silverstone, it would have been incredible to see, and I can say that a lot of people are behind him. We'll have to see what happens for the Renault team, but they are doing well in the constructors, and they do have quite reliability. They have good reliability heading into the British Grand Prix, and of course throughout the remaining races in the 2020 season. So that is the end of F1 24/7 news. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know in the comment section below everything we've mentioned in this video, including Nico Hulkenberg, what's going to happen with him, Sebastian Vettel and Scuderia Ferrari, why were they off the pace, and what are they going to do for the rest of the season and even Sunday, and what's going to happen with Daniel Ricciardo. Is he going to get that podium? I think a lot of people would be behind him to do that. If you are new to this channel, please like and subscribe. We have a lot more content coming your way in the future. Tomorrow we have the the 70th anniversary Grand Prix preview show, very similar to the British Grand Prix, of course, but heading into a new race. 3 brand new spots on the podium, and we should be in for a good race. And I've just said there, the first race, hopefully, for Nico Hulkenberg in 2020. Of course, commiserations missing out on Sunday at the British Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the 70th anniversary Grand Prix as well. We've got the live reaction after the race done by Jordan as well. So make sure you can stay tuned for that. We do hope that you enjoy the race and the rest of the season. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.